What's going on, everybody? This is the blockchain backer bringing you the latest cryptocurrency news and analysis. Today, we're going to be taking a peek over here at the XRP price chart, and we're going to talk about Bitcoin along with this move we've seen over here in Ethereum to see if we can try to paint a picture of what's going on here in the cryptocurrency market as Bitcoin has now been stuck here going on 3 weeks. Now, my thoughts have been that Bitcoin is going into a retracement, and retracements can come in all different shapes and manners on the structures of how they can look. We've seen them look in this form right here, where they're practically just straight lined up, where it points like this. It just kind of pauses out for about a month, moves to another level, pauses for a month, moves up for another level. Or here's a different one for Ethereum from back in 2018. Gradually shuffling, consolidating, then finally peaking as it got back up into this area, which for Bitcoin, that's right there at about $40,000. But the big question is how to tie all of this in, how to tie in what's going on with XRP, what's happening with Ethereum, to try to figure out what the ranging behavior can be in a move back up to the upside for Bitcoin and, in essence, the rest of the cryptocurrency market. So my thesis on the market, the thing I'm looking for in the market, is to eventually get a retracement back here for Bitcoin, and that be the glory days for the altcoin market. Everyone's going to have their own thesis of what's going to happen in the cryptocurrency market. Many people think that we're going to start a new cycle for Bitcoin and we're going to go into a new all-time high. My thesis is built upon the historical behavior of Bitcoin versus the stock market and the fact that Bitcoin's already completed 3 major super cycles in the course of its lifetime. And so if you study the historical behavior of the cryptocurrency market, how things work in the ebb and the flow of the altcoin market and Bitcoin, there are only 2 times where the altcoin market can go for a big rampaging run. That is 1, if Bitcoin breaks into a new all-time high, or 2, if Bitcoin goes back into a retracement. But we still don't know which one it's going to be. There's always the chance that we go all the way back up here and nothing happens with the altcoin market and pertaining to a big run because Bitcoin's going to act like it always has, where the altcoins don't take off until Bitcoin can crack through that all-time high. We won't know that until we start moving our way back up there, somewhere into this region. But should we see the altcoins rampaging into a moment like that for Bitcoin, it would be the signal based on historical behavior of Bitcoin for the last 13 years that Bitcoin is not going to be getting through here and that down and away we go. So if altcoins are rampaging into a moment like this with Bitcoin rising, we know the behavior is different from what happens back in here for a new all-time high. And we know the behavior is different from back in here when Bitcoin went off into a new all-time high. Which the unpopular view of XRP holders, which I am one myself, it's the largest bag that I do own, is that XRP is very much tied to what's going on in the rest of the cryptocurrency market. And its price behavior, its price rises are really dependent on the conditions that are persistent or happening throughout the rest of the market. So my theory on XRP has been that we actually have reached the top of the range. I've been discussing this for a couple of weeks, and I think we're probably just going to consolidate up here at these levels for a few weeks, if not maybe a month and a half, before things start to kind of slow down and pull their way back, and that the exciting time for XRP comes later on this year. And so the question is, can I corroborate that with anything happening here on the Bitcoin price chart? If my thoughts are, hey, this is as far as we need to go, and that could be where an alt season is or where XRP explodes, well, we're not too far away, right? I mean, we're at 28,000. We're talking about only getting to like 40,000 or hopefully maybe even 50,000. That's not far away and doesn't give it very much time for that to do something, right? Especially not for something like that to play out for that long. So I really just started kind of like spending a little bit more time in the Bitcoin price chart to kind of build my thesis on where we are. Right now, Bitcoin is stuck underneath a level that was the support level from back in 2021, now behaving as a resistance level. So this level actually held back in here after the initial break upwards in late 2020, then early 2021. We back tested this level. We back tested it in the summer of 2021, then fell to it during Luna and the UST collapse. And then finally, that was the breakdown. Here we are back testing that region currently right now. The great news about the whole price action that we've seen on Bitcoin is it has exhibited all the behaviors we've seen after bear markets have come to a complete end. We've exhibited the same behaviors after this came to an end and the same behaviors as 2013 came to an end. So we have all of those things when it comes to relative strength indexes, MACDs, stock RSIs, all these things, moving average crosses, moving average recoveries. We have all the things that we need to see of what we saw both in 2014 and in 2018 that marked the bottom was in. That's not in dispute. I've been screaming that since June of last year. And amazingly enough, even here in these last few weeks, we went and reclaimed the 200-week moving average. We're working on our 4th week above the 200-week moving average right now. All amazing signs happening in here. So everyone's having to make the guessing game of, are we in something like this right now? Are we actually somewhere like this right in now? Are we somewhere like this right in now? And the reality is, this doesn't look like any of them. Fortunately, I've been in this market through all of these time periods. I've been through the roller coaster of emotions. I've seen it all. I've seen the capitulation emotions. I've seen the euphoria emotions. I've seen the C19 sell-off emotions. I saw the doubt of everything up until this moment. I saw retail pile in, then Elon Musk come in with Tesla at the top, and retail YOLO, laser eyes, diamond hands come in. Then everybody scream, hey, just admit that it's a bear market. Then everybody say, hey, we're going to $100,000. And then everybody say, hey, we're going to $12,000. And then now it's a little bit more mixed, right? You do have the people out there saying we're going to $1 million within 90 days, but I don't think many people really buy into that narrative. So if I could kind of reflect back on just like watching emotional sentiment and how this has all played out and where we are currently right now, it reminds me a lot of this time period right back in here. So what did we have here? We actually had the C19 sell-off. Then we had the wall of worry and the wall of doubt that came in here from retail investors. Then in here, there was some more optimism, but there still was one more phase where extreme pessimism returned, and people did think we were actually going to go all the way back down to the lows again right in here. All the doubt in the market did return back in here. For those who weren't here at this time, it was extremely pessimistic in the market right in here, and it was the moment before the takeoff happened. But there was this fall that had to end up happening in here. And when I reflect back on that and say, okay, what was happening right before that? You know, we had the C19 sell-off. We had the Wyckoff accumulation spring phase happen right there for the altcoin market. We've spent, again, months since June of last year discussing about Wyckoff spring happening in here for the altcoin market and how the altcoin market looks so similar to that now and that we've already experienced our spring phase. But then we come off of spring, right? Similar to how we're experiencing right in here right now, working on a sign of strength, but the wall of worry all persisted in here at this time. Once we had this move down that took place right here, which for Bitcoin was right in here. And so I started looking at volume profiles over here on Coinbase, looking back on it. Remember, it's the same thing that happened for those who were here for the first time during this. What did we see? We saw the most selling volume really in the history of ever. The sell volume that took place there actually was higher than the sell volume that took place during C19. Then, just like in C19, there was a massive amount of buy volume that came in right in here that next day after that extreme sell. Then we head over here to our current times and we can see big buyer did show up in here at this moment in time. Not quite as much as C19, but unquestionably the buyers showed up right there. It was the biggest buy volume since that day. Throughout the whole bull run of Bitcoin, no buy volume ever came close to the buy volume we saw at the sell-off after C19. And then second up is the buy volume that we saw right there after the FTX collapse. So get all that off the screen, but the idea of, how prices really played out beyond that was really just kind of a washing machine after that until we finally were able to get moving. And I think it would make a whole lot of sense if we are really just kind of working in one of those phases right here, right now, similar to what we had last time, and that there's still another sell-off to take place in here, and this thing's going to accumulate for some more time, which would give us confluence for what would be happening over here with XRP, that there's still more time. We still see a washing machine continuing to go on in here for XRP before a pull down eventually ends up working its way in. Which even in here, we still see there's more time of just hanging out in a washing machine before a pull down eventually ends up happening. What would end up being the sentiment of the market during a time period like this? Extreme pessimism, extreme doubt, extreme worry. And I know it's hard to think of it like that right now for people who are maybe in XRP right now. They're probably feeling pretty good. They're feeling pretty excited. We're seeing the highest prices we've seen in a year. But it also becomes very easy to forget what people were feeling just 1 month ago. And considering I do remember this moment so well for Bitcoin from back there in 2020 of how we worked our way around up in here for some time and then fell and then spent 2 months down in here The market totally believed we were going to break down. And like we talked about with emotions, I've seen it when it's the complete pessimism. And at the bottom, people thought we were going to go much lower. Up here in this retrace, it was complete euphoria. In the C19 sell off, people thought it was going to go much lower. They thought it was going to go much lower during the whole rise. And then right in here, some optimism returned. But then, boom, the pessimism came right back in here. And we have that same thing, right? You come down here, people think it's going to keep going lower. You get up here, there's a lot of doubt, right? Remember how much doubt there was in this move right here that ended up happening? How much doubt there is? This is just a little move. It's still going to kerplunk down to 12K. People get real scared. There's a big move. Boom, it comes right back up. People are kind of like, okay, I'm on the fence now. I'm questioning it. Is it bullish or is it bearish? So there's no extreme sentiment swing. I think we can probably agree, right? Like down here, there's an extreme sentiment swing. Up here, extreme sentiment swing. Extreme. Is there one right now? There's not. Retail is kind of cautious. Everybody's a little bit on edge and they could be swung either direction. And so a breakout would bring in euphoria, but a pullback would bring in worry. Unlike when sentiment is swung really far one way and people just aren't going to come off that position. I think right now we're still just like super mixed, and move in either direction will trigger the emotions. It'll trigger euphoria or it'll trigger worry. And you've seen all the narratives that have come out lately. It would not surprise me. We get a narrative to go with it too, right? And I've had to really spend some time trying to build my thesis and say, well, what do I think is happening here as we're at this resistance? And especially since we've been here for 3 weeks, a little bit sketchy, right? We're sitting underneath this thing. It's like, hey, that's a little sketchy in there. That's not exactly a baby resistance sitting there. This is like we just talked about at the beginning. This is something that lasted like almost a year and a half to 2 years. We're right back at it right now. There's definitely resistance here. And I think our phase that we saw right back in here was really something of the similar size and the similar behavior of what we actually had back then too, just morphed a little bit. That our price action all throughout February and the earlier part of March was really just the same stuff. And if we kind of incorporate that to say, well, if that is the phase, if that's what's happening here, we're just going to kind of work this out for some time before we can pull our way back down again. Then it points to that, right? It points to, hey, extremely awesome, great times. I mean, that's even what it points to over here on XRP, right? Extremely awesome, great times. And call me biased, call me whatever you want. A lot of you do. I do have the bias that we are going to see a big run like that for XRP, but I'm not so convinced that we're going to see that over here for Bitcoin, like I've explained, because of the correlation between Bitcoin and the stock market. But that a phase like this would be coming, and what happens in this phase, right? This is where alt season begins, right? Right after that phase, except I just don't think the prices are going to have the juice. I don't think Bitcoin's going to have that juice to print some type of fractal like this that's going to have the oomph to get itself all the way up to new all-time highs. But we're still going to be kind of like in that same kind of market environment where the altcoin market is really rocking and rolling through that. And I think we could see something like this, but more so compressed. So I'm going to make my best guess in here. I do think we are in some sort of a range that is like this, that there may be a stab to go take out that level, and it maybe convinces us, hey, we're actually in some type of a breakout, that this does continue on here for at least, probably the rest of April. That price behavior is what gives us some room to really just kind of work around in here for XRP for some time. But one thing to kind of take notice on that I'll point back to this video in the future if things start to even look closer to this, because if this is true, well, we're still just like halfway through the ranging process in here. But there was something very clear that did happen in here. And it's one of those things that still just kind of shows up all the time over there on Bitcoin. So I'll be keeping my eye out for it, is that classic 702 Fibonacci retracement that comes in that we typically see quite often in the market, that when a peak comes in, then you see a 702 retracement, then you go on and plunge down. And that's the exact retracement we saw over there when Elon Musk went on Saturday Night Live. Retail euphoria back at the 702 retracement, then gets wrong-footed. And that even in this phase back over here that we're pointing to, right in here, what ends up happening in here is that this is an ABC correction that actually emerged right in here with a 702 Fibonacci retracement. So right in here for Bitcoin, having to kind of be cautious a little bit of false breakouts that could happen here to the upside as it's ranging here in these prices. Then if we see a false breakout that eventually pulls back in here, it'll be all about watching a retracement come back in here to complete an ABC, and then some time spent consolidating down in there, which all of that correlates with this, right? with XRP and what we're talking about is that, the ranging could take place up here for a little while. Then eventually there's kind of that bigger pullback that eventually comes in there. And I'm just seeing the confluences between these to think that's possible. But, all I'm talking about here is I'm talking about Bitcoin and I'm talking about XRP. We've got some interesting price action happening over here on Ethereum. And I've talked about this in Markets in the Morning multiple times saying, I'm looking at this thing and I see the total market cap kind of paused out there. I see Bitcoin paused out. I see XRP paused out, but I'm seeing something different over here on Ethereum that it's like, I think Ethereum is going to march up higher. And just here in these last 2 days, we've started to see Ethereum start to march up higher. And we might see some interesting action in the altcoin market during this whole time period. And I wouldn't be surprised if we would. So I'm not sitting here screaming, we're going to see all these altcoins fall from right here. I think many of them have risen up. They've probably reached their areas where the major resistance is, like XRP has. But I think there's still the potential for a lot of exciting action to happen in here while Bitcoin's just hanging out in this range right in here. So there's still the potential for some awesome things to happen in the market, just in various places throughout the market. But for me, I'm always trying to look ahead and trying to kind of like plan for, what I'm thinking. And like, just if price behaved like this, what would be the things that would occur? It'd be one, we'd see a false breakout. And then two, a big pullback that would eventually lead to a likely extreme sentiment swing. So going forward, making videos, kind of just understanding where my mind is at, that I think Bitcoin is at a range top. I think Bitcoin's at a resistance. I'm wary of a false breakout happening in here. I think we'll likely see an ABC correction that will take place to pull back lower again with a couple more months of consolidation for Bitcoin, which has the confluence of what I'm looking for over here on the XRP price chart. But I also think there's a potential for some exciting things to happen in the market and some moves to emerge here in the market. Then when that fall in Bitcoin happens, then, hey, things calm out there too. So I think it's important for me to like share my thesis of what I think is going on in here. I spent a little time really kind of studying it, paying attention to it, the volume profiles. I'm not usually a big fan of guessing on short-term price action on things like this and things like this for Bitcoin. If I'm going to build a case for things, I usually like to make it on much bigger time frames because short-term could be so volatile. You put your reputation on it. But this is pretty much my best guess for what is happening right now for Bitcoin. I think we're in a range. I think we're going to stay here for a little while. There may be some false breaking out to the upside that ends up happening in here. But the big key signature thing will be if we do get another move up higher, if we do take this out and we fall back, it's going to be all about watching that retracement and the cautions that come in at that moment. Because one thing I do know is when this happened back in 2020, the market was just completely wrong-footed. The market could not believe this has happened, and there was huge screams for manipulation for some reason during that time period. When we look at it from the technicals of it, and we say, hey, look, it was actually just like a perfect 702 retracement. It was an ABC. At the time, the market was screaming manipulation. So the market had finally let themselves get extremely bullish after that, right? So we had just gone through all of this crazy stuff here in C19. It had risen all the way up here, but it was a wall of worry. Finally, people started letting their wall of worry down a little bit when we were up in here. Would you agree that to be the case right now, that a lot of people are letting their wall of worry start to go away right in here? I wouldn't say everybody has, but I would think a lot of people have let down their wall of worry or that extreme fear. The fear and greed index would agree with that. And once they let go of that extreme fear, when that pullback happened, it was a scream for market manipulation. But we can see in there was a technical behavior of an ABC correction that emerged in here. And so we just will have to pay attention to that and watch for it when the time comes if we end up getting one. So if there's a false breakout and then if there's a pullback followed by a 702 retracement, we'll be here to watch it all. And we'll probably reference back to this video. Otherwise, my thoughts are the bright future is coming. The bright future is coming. We just have a little bit more work we have to do before we get there. I'm just kind of going through the mental preparations of what it's going to be like to get there and kind of pre-planning if this is a situation that does get presented in the market, how am I going to handle it? I'm already ridiculously long the market, but is there any opportunity I'm going to seize down in here if that gets offered? And I also have to be prepared, and we all know this, that there's likely a narrative to come with it at that time. There is likely something scary. And I hope that we've learned just over the course of the last several months that a lot of times these narratives can be misleading of what comes next with price action. For like when FTX collapsed, when everything hit the fan, that was actually the buy time. That was the mark of the bottom, literally right there, November 10th, the day before Sam Bankman-Fried filed for bankruptcy for FTX. Seems like a lifetime ago. Hard to believe these moments happened right in here. This was the mark of the bottom. but that's just how things go. So kind of preparing for that being a reality in there, and sometimes to like already put on that tinfoil hat to say, this was planned. This was supposed to happen. They're just trying to shake me out. But yeah, we'll address it when we get there. I think we're ranging. I think XRP is at the top of its range. I'm interested to see how high Ethereum can go right in here. And I'm interested to see what other price action we can see happen in the market before we get another pullback happening in here. And then getting ready for the big main event of this market to come later this year. So I'm really excited. And just these are the phases we want to see. These are the things that we have seen happen before it got real excited. So I'm excited too. So I'll just play the hand that gets dealt and keeping my eyes out for the things that I think could be possible happening in the market. And this is pretty much my best guess. On that note, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this thing up so I can get ready for markets in the morning. I hope that you have been having a great week so far. This is going to be a holiday weekend. I will not be here Friday through Sunday, and that includes markets in the morning as well. There will be no markets in the morning on Friday morning. It is a holiday. The kids are home from school. We're doing family activities with our extended family as well. So I just won't be here on Friday. And the stock market will be closed that day. So otherwise, just keeping an eye on the markets, and we'll check in on it again soon. I hope that you're having a great day. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you could, please like this video and give it a thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you could be notified of when I create new content and when I go live. As always, this is not investment advice, and I am not a financial advisor. But if you ever need a pick-me-up or a little bit of reassurance, just remember that the blockchain backers got your back. Have a good one.